Hello, friends and extended family. Today, I was talking to a friend via email, and they were discussing that movie Adoption with an Asian adoptee to a white family, and I have seen it, and two big things about that film documentary stood out for me, and one of them was when she was talking about her sexuality. Now, for me, I empathized with it because my sexuality was interfered with at a very young age, and with the attitudes in the home, uh, the FAGGOT word getting tossed around because I grew my hair long, um, and the fact that I didn't have a physical intimacy with my adoptive family, which, in later research and understandings, I mean, babies who don't have human contact die. So obviously, physical intimacy is important, and I don't know about every other adoptee, but I feel that if they don't bond with that adoptive family and find some sort of physical connection with them, that they're going to seek out physical intimacy. And as a child, that puts them in a very vulnerable position to pedophiles, to sexual dysfunction, um, sexual interference in their psychological development, etc., etc. And can I noted in the movie when she talked about her sexual behaviors that there was sort of a bit of a judgment there that something wasn't quite right about it. And I feel the same way in that physical intimacy became a confused topic um, because of adoption. So there's that. And I don't know about other adoptees, but I'd love to hear your insights and comments. If you agree or disagree that adoption can have some major effects in that area. The other big thing I took away from that documentary was the interaction between the adoptive child, now an adult, trying to share probably one of the most significant events of any adoptee's life, which is researching and possibly meeting or rediscovering the birth family. And that topic seems to end the same way for many of us, in that the adoptive parents cannot support you in this major part of your life. And if you are about to experience one of the major traumatic, emotional, um, life changing events of your life, and you cannot count on the people that claim to be your family to support you and be there for you during this incredible trial, then you don't have a family, do you? So that's something to consider for adoptive parents, for adoptees, for everyone in general involved. If this is a common occurrence, that the adoptee, who is the unintended victim of adoption, the unintended victim of other people's indiscretions, etc., why does it fall on us to have to deal with these major existential issues on our own? And if that's going to be the case, then I suggest that every adoptee be provided top-notch psychological education. Because I, in hindsight, well, in realizing these things and going through them by myself and having to have a complete and utter nervous breakdown, like many of us have, had to eventually study psychology to move forward in life, to slowly come to understand the basic, mundane, physiological, psychological realities that are going on while we believed we were living an authentic life, which turned out to possibly not be so authentic. So those were some major points in that movie that I took away, and I would recommend. I didn't agree with everything about it, and I can't really. I try not to. You know, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but basically, I think the documentary is worth a viewing, and it does bring up some topics that we may relate with, or that we maybe should think about in the long term. As I've mentioned before, here's a very simple question that opens up a lot of a lot more questions. Where should the adoptee be buried, or where should their remains rest? Do we decide that at birth or at adoption? Do we decide that at adulthood? Do we decide that before we've met the birth parents? After we've met the birth parents? After we've decided whether or not to meet the birth parents? After we've been accepted back into the birth family? After our reunion has failed in the birth family? After we've decided whether or not we get along with the birth family? Whether or not the adoptive family was supportive of us searching for our birth family? Where are we buried? Answer that question for me, please. Because there's got to be answers to these questions if we're going to keep going on with this incredibly toxic experiment in practice. That's all.